This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we can keep track. All right. This is probably, I'm going to have to do a raise of hand because of the audio issue, but how many of you by the raise of hand have ever installed a Surefire unit before? A couple of you. Okay. Excellent. Jimmy, too. All right. By the raise of hand, if you have not installed it, have you heard of it before? Until today. Okay, in the back. Good. All right. Well, hey, thank you. I think that's Don back there. So what we'd like to do today, those of you who have installed them, I'd love to have you kind of chime in as we go. What I'd like to do today is we can go quickly over somewhat of what it does, but I'd really love to hear your questions as to how it can help you in your installations. Now, looks to me like you guys have, it sounds like you guys are all pretty, I'm losing you a little bit there.
I lost,
Did you lose audio?
I lost video. There we go.
Okay. Okay.
Right, we're good.
We're good? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. All right, so I'd love to have this be as interactive as we can. I realize I'm having a little hard time hearing from your side, so we'll lean on Paul to help relay questions or go over to you or whatever. So we're going to talk a little bit about what Surefire is, what does it do, how it helps you guys, and to talk about how it's being used. I have the opportunity to go out and work with installers every day. I've been out on over 300 installations of over 1,000 units this year. So it's been a great opportunity for me to go out and see how people are using it. I can share with you a little bit about what they're doing out there in the rest of the world, but also most importantly, I want to hear how you guys are considering it and answer questions for you, okay?
All right, all right.
Did you have a question there, Paul?
Everybody's good. We're good, John.
Okay, good. All right, so real quick overview. The Surefire radio is the unique thing. So let me ask you guys a question. I'm gonna have Paul kind of help me with your answers, but what challenges have you guys had in the past working with wireless control systems and solutions?
Range. Range.
I heard range. Any other issues?
Connectivity between the two units. Connection between the two units.
So reliable connections, we have range issues. Any of you have challenges with having to mount like an external antenna and having the right kind of box and it's just a pain to put together?
Yeah, they're shaking their heads.
Okay. All right. So these are all things that, you know, the guys I've worked with and I'm seeing every day people are experiencing. Part of the reason that Surefire is unique and has been as successful as it has been is it takes away the majority, you know, those problems. It takes away, it gives you a great ease of installation. It allows you to get through a metal box. It gives you great range. Those of you who have installed this probably know the kind of range it gets. Now, I am going to talk a little bit about that because sometimes people have a misconception about what the range test is and how that works. So we'll talk about that in a second. So this is really the first radio that we designed from the ground up to get through heavy obstruction. It'll go a mile through obstruction and a 50 miles line of sight. Now I realize that's a big claim. a mile through obstruction, that's pretty tough to do. And you guys know how that is. Sometimes people claim a great, huge amount, but they don't really deliver on that. So we'll talk about that. And it's important to me that you guys actually can prove this for yourselves, because you know, you got sales guys telling you all sorts of things all the time, but the reality is, what will it do in the field, right? This radio also is encrypted with military grade encryption, 72 channel hopping, which allows it to jump from one channel to another if there's any kind of interference, as well as OTAR, which is over the air rekeying. So every time it sends a signal, it redoes the key, redoes the code, and makes it nearly impossible to break. We had one of our clients, Facebook. You've probably heard of Facebook. They hired Microsoft engineers to try to break our encryption, and they couldn't do it. So those are some of the features of the radio itself that carries these control signals. And I want to talk about the last one, and I'm going to have, I know Paul will show you on this as well, but when you go and install this, or if you use a testing unit, you're going to see LEDs light up to show you the strength of signal. The thing that's important to understand is that's not like the bars on your phone. All right, the bars on your phone, if you have one bar, your wife is not going to hear you. And I always tell my wife, hey, I got one bar, couldn't hear that you wanted me to take out the garbage or whatever, right? So what happens is with this is multipath, which means we send more than just one signal. We send signals out, multiple signals in all sorts of directions, kind of a shotgun approach. So when you have one signal coming back, that is one full signal that has all the information you need. So even if you only have one LED light up, that's as much as having a full signal from any other product. So it's multipath makes it so that we have layer upon layer of redundancy, so that we make sure that your connection, your installation is going to work every time. So Paul, can you show them that when you push the button on that, those LEDs lighten up? And the test units have the same exact LEDs. And basically that's just, so it's showing that you're receiving 5 different paths coming back, so that it's always going to be reliable for you. So now this radio, okay, he's going to show them the testing.
Yeah, this is actually the test kit. I'll kind of pass this around. It comes in a pair. So one's the transmitter, one's the receiver. So like right now, we're right beside each other. So we've actually got, it shows us with 6 paths that it can communicate, because we're right next to each other. If I were to leave this here, get in my car and drive down the street like 5 or 6 blocks or whatever, behind buildings or wherever, we might end up with only one LED lit. That still means we still have a full signal strength though. So it's still got a connection. So it's not like your cell phone. When I first got these for the first time, I put one in my mailbox and started driving, and it's like I go down the road about a quarter of a mile and through a whole bunch of buildings and everything else like that. I only had one light, and I said, well, that's not very good. But in actuality, it's still, the signal's still correct. So what John was talking about before with multipath, so what that is, those 6 actually LEDs are different paths that it is found to be able to make the connection. So through buildings, like if you're going up like 20 stories or 30 stories or things like that, it will actually seek and search for the best route for the signal to get there. So did I explain it well enough for you? Okay. All right, John, go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that explanation. So this radio is new and quite unique in the control world. So what we do with that radio is it becomes like a pickup truck, and we put lots of different signals in the bed depending on what we want to control. In this case, with most of you guys being access control people, we're putting a Wiegand signal or relay signals. All right. So some of the products that we have that we put in that pickup bed is a Wiegand, like we just talked about. We also have HVAC. We'll talk more about it. We have a relay only product and an analog. The analog does variable voltage, milliamp, and thermistor. And we'll talk more about those as we get going. We're also going to have Paul talk to you about the mobile app, which allows you to test all of the connections and see the Wiegand codes coming in and connect to the relays and make sure that everything is set as you do the installation. So people love this mobile app. It also allows us to do some things. Now, Jimmy, did you have a question?
Is this like a two-way radio? Jimmy says, is this like a two-way radio?
Yes, for the most part, except for it's a lot stronger. The two-way radio concept is the same. We have a radio chip in there, but it's using what's called chirp band. And chirp band is a lot like sonar or radar in the early days. And what you're basically doing is encoding on the turn of the band, and it makes it so it's able to go through heavy obstruction. So it's a two-way radio. That is true, and it runs in 900 megahertz, but it's not even close to any kind of 900 megahertz product, because we use chirp band spectrum, and a lot of the things about the radio we have and the way we use the type of chirp in it is we have multiple patents on, so it's very different than anything out there.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Great question. All right. So so we're going to start with your problem. Sometimes you've got a door, you've got a gate, whatever, and sometimes you do not have the ability to get wire through there in an easy way, right? So what Surefire does is we basically cut that wire and connect it with a reliable wireless robust signal that's as sure as wire, but even a lot more secure. So that's what Surefire does. We're talking about the wireless Wiegand bridge, which most of you have done. Now, I could see there was Jimmy. You said that you'd installed one before, right? Oh, someone in the back. Is that Travis? I'm not sure who that was back there.
Don.
Don? So what was the application when you installed your Surefire unit?
I've done it in two different instances. The first one, we had a gate operator about 400 feet away from the controller. So I've only used the input to output, so basically the input changes state and the output cycles on the other end. So I've done that, and then we just did a building application where after everything was wired up and done, they wanted to toggle override switch in one building. Our controller was in the electrical room in the other building. It was about 400 to 450 feet away. Didn't have any issues with signal connection or nothing.
That's great. Was there a lot of obstruction between the buildings, a lot of walls and different things?
It was probably 5 or 6 walls, and like I said, I was in the electrical room where our control panels were, and I put it inside our metal enclosure with our actual control panel. So, you got metal, electrical coming in and out of that room, and all kinds of walls. So, yeah, it was pretty good amount of obstruction.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So this particular unit is perfect for that kind of an application. We were in Charlotte a few weeks back, and there was an area where we had 2 large warehouses, about 500,000 square feet each, and they were across kind of a large field from each other. One was the old warehouse, one was the new warehouse, and they actually were controlling all the doors on the new warehouse at the old warehouse because you could do it with the Surefire unit. So anyway, great application. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. All right. So this has Wiegand features. So you can use Wiegand protocols. Pretty much any Wiegand protocol will work, as well as 2 relays each direction. So you have a total of 4 relays, 2 each direction, wet or dry. So if you want to use it just in the relay aspect, you can. But it's good for things like door position sensors. Obviously, you want to use a relay to open a gate or open the door, trigger a mag lock, trigger a door strike of some kind, whatever. And so 2 relays each direction helps us with that. Okay, so Don, thank you so much for your comment as well. We're finding it being used in a lot of industrial applications, in tall buildings. For those of you who understand the true cost of running wire, it's not just the 30 cents a foot or whatever it is. You also have 2 guys there trying to run it. You have to drill through things. You have to rent a trencher. You have to rent a scissor lift, whatever you have to do. It gets expensive to run wire. Whereas if you can do a Surefire unit and install it in 15 minutes and be done, it's good. It's really good for retrofit of old buildings, courthouses, old school things. We've done quite a few of those. Anytime you have damaged or shorted wire, we actually went to a brand new building the other day that had settled on one side because it was built on a hill, and it sheared all the control wires. So they had to put in a bunch of Surefire units because there was no way for them to get through. There's already cemented all in, and the electricians couldn't do it. So sometimes those get damaged. So whatever you need to, dig a trench, drill a hole, throw it through a drop ceiling, whenever you have to do something like that, if you look at it, usually Surefire is a better deal, because you guys are wasting so much time pulling wire. It's crazy, and it's not any cheaper. We even had one of the integrators, one of the installers, tell me about this application, and we've even got it on forklifts. Basically, the access control system treats the forklift like a door, and they can control who goes on it and off of it, and also have an impact sensor that goes through the relay, and they use it on their access control system that's already in the warehouse or already in the factory, and it can run forklifts. You can see the picture of it right there. We have it on a whole fleet of 24 forklifts at this particular one, and they're going into others as well. So what are some of the things you're thinking about that you could possibly use a Surefire unit for, that you've maybe had to struggled in the past with wire?
One thing mainly retrofit, because a lot of times old buildings will just have, it's just nonsense ran everywhere.
So you're saying like retrofits for whole buildings?
Yeah, and I think the term you used was nonsense run everywhere. That's probably the right term for it. Man, you get in there and you got all sorts of wires and all sorts of crap run all over the place, and you're thinking, who in the world did this job? And if you can get in and out and get paid for the job in 15 minutes on each side, man, that just is a win for you guys. So excellent example, thank you. And that's Marcus, right? Appreciate it, thank you. All right, some of the other ways people are doing it: elevators, using it to make it so they have to badge in to be able to even call the elevator down to increase security. Mustering and gathering points in outside of factories, schools, hospitals, places, so they need to keep track of that everybody's in, everybody's out in an emergency. Also municipalities, because we have the range, we can actually set up kind of like a hub of wireless service. So this particular city wanted a Surefire unit set up in their 5 major buildings. They had a fire station, a police station, utility control, a library, a city hall. They were kind of spread out through the whole municipality. And then they wanted to set up a hub there where all of these other little buildings, like pump houses and parks and shooting ranges and cemetery and all this other things, could get access control to those central hubs that were already connected through into the net. And they were able to do that. And so you have like 100 points to the outside. They could add them to all these little doors. That's a huge thing that you guys could offer to a municipality and say, hey, for just a few bucks per point, we can actually add this for you. Whereas they were thinking in the first place, they'd have to add a standalone system to every single place. So it gives you an option of something you can offer. See people found themselves, you guys dying. Jimmy, what's your question, sir?
Can you interface a transport reader with this system?
Okay, say it one more time, please.
Can you interface a transport reader with this system?
Is it a Wiegand? Is it like an RFID Wiegand protocol?
Sort of. You have to have a converter, a socket converter for it. I tried to hook one up to another manufacturer and using the transport as the reader, and this is not compatible at all. This is just a bridge. This isn't an access control. Right. This isn't a brain. So you could go transport a Cypress, and if your brain did, you could make that bridge. This just replaces cable from field device to control system. Okay. This isn't a standalone control system. Right. It's just a bridge.
Yeah, that's a great point. We really are kind of agnostic, if I can use that word. We're agnostic to system. We just replace the wire. Now, we've found that that if anything is running basic, standard Wiegand protocols, this will do it. But if it's not going to work wire to wire, if it's not going to work if it's wired up, it's not going to work if it's not wired, because we just replace that wire. We do nothing else. So we're really kind of agnostic to system. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. And I'm going to play the Wiegand installation video for him later, so they'll see the wiring connection.
And I really appreciate whoever it was that helped jump in there. That was a great explanation. Thank you. All right, so Paul, if you would take a few minutes and just walk up there, show them how the cube is wired, show them how to demo the app for them, and we'll take a few minutes to do that, and then we'll be back to talk about some of the other ways it's applied and some of the new things we're doing with RS-485 and serial data.
Okay, we got one question here.
Okay, please.
When you talk about retrofit, some of our jobs have 50, 60 doors. I know you mentioned different channels, so each set would need to be for one door back to control panel. If I have 60, say, God forbid, but I need 60 of these to replace wire to 60 doors on a retrofit, I'm assuming that multi-channel for interference is what we would jump around on to prevent interference.
They do prevent interference, and we have actually tested this with over 120 powered up at the same time. So the 72 channel allows it to bounce around. It would also realize that if you were going to even slow it down, you'd have to have all of them triggering at the exact same time, which of course that's never going to happen. So it takes about a half a second latency to make that all work, which is kind of a standardized latency. But yeah, we haven't had any problems with having multiple doors going at the same time. And we've stopped at 120, but so far we haven't had that be any kind of an issue.
Our access control panel limits is, I think, 120 devices per location. I don't think that's ever been an issue. I just was curious. We've done it on a very small scale. You know, one door to the control panel because we lost the cable in between. But I was just curious to make sure if we did a whole install, we weren't going to have interference issues. So.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. In fact, Paul and I were down in Mexico, and a guy was wanting to use 148 of them in the same kind of an HOA. So every apartment would have one, and it shouldn't be a problem at all. We'll find out once he gets done, but we're not concerned about that. So it was a great question. Thank you. Paul, why don't you go ahead and show them the app and show them how things are wired, answer any questions there, and we'll move forward, let them get up and get moving, and maybe even open that door a little bit to cool them down. I can see people are getting kind of hot.
No, I think they're doing okay. Lunch is here, so I think we're doing okay. All right. So there is a app. You've used it, obviously. So you can go to either iTunes, Apple Store, or Android.
Scan the QR code on the product. It actually auto-links it to the.
Yeah, I'm going to show them.
Yeah.
So if you go and download that app, the Surefire app, it'll actually set you up with a QR code window. Hopefully. It'll actually come up with this window, which will show you the manual. Sorry, I've got to do that again. I hit that by mistake. Okay, there it is. The manual and also an installation video. And then if you come back over to your unit here, push it. Code. It'll actually talk to the app. It's giving me an error, John.
Okay. I'll give you some time to work on that. Now, if you can, it'd be great if people want to come up, take a look at how it's wired in. It's really very simple with the relays and where the Wiegand goes in, but it's always nice to see how it's wired up, because otherwise it's can kind of be a little bit confusing. So why don't you invite anybody up who wants to come up and take a look at it, and then we'll see if we can figure out what's going on with your app.
No, I had the same problem yesterday.
You may want to take the app off and reload it in case it has an update. All right. Well, we'll let Paul play with that a little bit, and we'll get rolling and move on forward, and maybe we come back to it. All right. So one of the other ones we have is a relay I/O. Basically, it's the exact same as the Wiegand, but we take away the Wiegand aspect. It just has the relays. It's a little bit cheaper. People use them a lot on request to exit buttons, can interface with the MyQ system and RFID readers and things like that. All right, we also have what's called our 24 volt or HVAC relays bridge. And this one's really cool because this has the ability, because of the way it's built, to connect into one-to-multiple. So it has 8 channels going out, 8 relays going out, 2 coming back. And we designed it specifically with HVAC in mind, but it can also be run 9 to 15 volts DC. So if you have a situation where you have a one-to-multiple and they're only going one direction, it may or may not work for you, but something to take a look at. It's also been used for irrigation, such as golf courses, alarms, sensors, all sorts of things. So the one-to-multiple basically works like this. You guys have a lot of heat pumps down there. You can either split the channels, send some channels to one, some channels to another, like on an air handler or heat pump, or you can send all the channels to the same one, like this, so repeat it. Or you can send a single to each one, so you could send channel 1 to the first one, channel 2 to the second, channel 3, whatever, depending on how you wire that up. So one-to-multiple is a really nice aspect of this particular unit, and this one-to-multiple can be used in a lot of things that we're just now getting a hand on that. A lot of installers have been teaching me about how they're using our product, so it's been good. So as you think about things to do, think if you have a one-to-multiple application, perhaps in an alarm system or something like that, or exit buttons or things like that. All right, our last one that's a current product. Yes, do you have a question? Did we have a question?
I'll give you a question. This listed for you, is this UL listed for fire?
Okay, so the unit is UL listed, but if you're going to be UL listed for fire, you have to be UL listed with the specific units that you're using. Because we are agnostic to system, it's UL listed, but it has to be specifically put in something specific, like a NEMA box, and then it would only be available to be used for a secondary reset type of thing, not initially done with fire, because that would take us having to go through and certify with every single product in the field. So some people have used it for fire, but usually for that secondary reset type of a scenario. Does that answer the question?
I was just thinking about relays that you need to fire remotely. I was talking about like if you wanted to fire a relay remotely through the fire alarm system, to turn on something or turn it off.
Yeah, so sometimes if you have a building with multiple aspects out there and they've triggered alarms and you want to be able to reset them, because that's the secondary level with fire, you could reset them using our units. But the initial, they have to be UL listed for fire with every component that's in that fire system. So that would be something that couldn't be used at this time. It's a good question though. Now the reality is would it work fine? Yes. Is it certified to do that? No. So if that makes sense, whether you can or should are 2 different questions, right? All right, the analog I/O is one that's used for variable voltage, milliamp, and thermistor. This is for controls and sensors in automated systems that you need to open something 30%, or you need to have a sensor that says how much pressure is in that gas line. People in the oil and gas industry have used this a lot. They're using this because they have sensors on refineries. They have sensors all over the place trying to tell them what's happening, flow meters, all that kind of thing. That can all be remotely sent now with the same high robust radio with the analog I/O bridge. And that allows you to send 6 relays each direction, or excuse me, 6 signals each direction with variable milliamp thermistor and voltage. So as you're thinking about things, that may be something that you could use in some of your applications. All right, so this is one that I want to talk to you about. This is why it's important to you. Now, you guys may not be the owners of the company, but it's important to understand why it's a great value to you guys as well as the owners to use the SureFi bridge. Now, for you guys, if you are not the owners, and you might be, but if you're not, the SureFi bridge makes it so that your job is easier. You don't have to dig holes. You don't have to drill holes. You don't have to throw wires through drop ceilings, and you get off of that job and onto another one a lot faster, whether it's a retrofit or a new install, whatever. If you are for the company side, it allows you to outbid your competition because they're all, how many of you, by the raise of hand, go out and do bids? A couple of you. Excellent. So when you go out there and do those bids, they're always asking you first, how much, right? That's what the bid is for. But the second question that you're always going to get, Marcus, tell me, what's the second question they get after they get the dollar amount? What do they always ask you? I think I heard how long. Is that right?
Right.
All right. So they always ask, when can you do it? And if you are 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks out, there's a good chance your competition is going to get that instead of you. However, if you can do a job, if you can do your jobs that used to take you 3 days in 1 day because you don't have to trench, you don't have to drill, you don't have to bore, you don't have to throw through drop ceilings, now you are competitive and say, yeah, we can be there in 4 days, and you're going to get more bids. So both time and money is going to help you win those bids. Also, you guys are in here, you guys know how to run things, you know how to integrate variable systems. You're well trained and you're valuable installers. My question a lot is, why do we have you guys digging holes? It's like, if you guys could make the company money by installing systems and programming and wiring, why do we have you out digging a hole? And that's really what happens a lot with this system. You're out bending pipe and digging holes, wasting your time, when we could actually be multiplying your efforts and getting more jobs done if you didn't have to mess with the wire. And that's something that for companies is huge. I had a guy in Vegas who he stopped wiring anything because he had so many jobs to do. He just told all of his installers, just always use SureFi and get off and get to the next thing, because and he's doing 3 times as many jobs with the same number of guys. So that's actually a business model, kind of a mindset change. How can I do a job in half a day that used to take me 2 days or 3 days because I don't have to wire? It's possible with SureFi. So you can efficiently complete those jobs like we talked about. Here's another thing. You can be confident with this product. This product has been really great. Now, no electronic product is perfect, right? Everybody has some failures, but the SureFi unit has been great in that we've had less than 0.5% failure rate. That means very few callbacks. It means almost never going back there for a SureFi unit. Now, I can't control the rest of your systems, right? But we've had 0.4% failure rate in the SureFi unit. So that's something that we're really proud of, and something that you guys can bank on, so you don't have to get going out there because, dang it, that some wireless thing didn't work again. With SureFi, it works. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Chris, the guy I told you about a second ago. For those guys who do bids, sometimes when they get the bid, they say it's just too much for them, right? Has that ever happened to you, gentlemen? Raise your hand if that's ever happened. If you give a bid and they say, oh, that's just outside of our price range. That ever happened?
Yeah.
All right, so are you calling? Can you hear me? Are we having trouble, Paul?
We can hear you.
Okay.
I got this app running now, so can I pass that around now?
What are you passing around? The app? Okay, yeah, go ahead and show them what to do. I will take a quick break while you show them how that works.
Okay. So what this actually does is actually opens back up. I'm using something's wrong with my phone, or whether it's the Bluetooth I got running or whatever. But this will actually take you through all different aspects of what the product's doing and everything else like that. It'll check the wiring for you. If you have any issues with, you still can't figure out the wiring or whatever, you can actually take and connect this app back to SureFind in Utah, and they can actually see exactly what's going on with the unit. So in other words, you have to have it hooked up to the unit's got to be running with the app connected to it.
So you control the input and output.
Yeah, you can actually control the input and outputs from here too. You can test them, you can do everything from right here too. Another thing that's kind of neat about this too, I'll show you, there's a green bar at the bottom, and that actually shows you the warranty.
Okay.
So what I like about this is, you know, if you want to buy a couple of these and keep them on the shelf, your warranty doesn't start until you actually use the QR code to get it set up and running. So it may save you a trip, you know, it may save you some time or whatever. You know, if you know you're going to keep using these, and I guarantee you, once you use these the first time, you're going to want to keep using them, correct?
Oh, yeah. We got 3 or 4 already sold, and I go from my kids install all the time.
Yeah, so that's one of the nice things, that the warranty, you can hold it and forever, and the warranty doesn't start until you actually activate it with the unit itself.
So if somebody had the app on their phone and they were like, I mean, can you like remote unlock the door from like your house or something? Like if somebody
No.
like forgot their, it's just for testing.
Yeah, just for testing with the unit, yeah.
So to answer a little bit more on that question, first of all, you have to connect to it to show proof of presence. You have to actually touch the button to connect with it. So you can't do it if you can't get into the box or anything, number one. And number two, once you get farther away than Bluetooth range, it automatically kicks that off and disconnects it. And so it's really just for installers and technicians to use at the point, not for outside of that.
Okay.
It's a great question. Okay, thank you, Paul. Is there any other questions about that app? It's actually really great. I've had it installed a little while ago that he couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. And we got on there and we were saying we couldn't get weekend codes coming in. And he went back and he found that he'd had a broken wire, not at the end, but it was up about 2 or 3 inches into it. And he probably wouldn't have found that for hours had he not had the ability to use the app to see what was happening. So thank you, Paul. I appreciate you getting that worked out. All right. So I was going to tell you a little bit about this friend Chris of mine. He went out and did these, just like you guys. He had a big folder of people who have said, yeah, I like, we want access control, but when you gave us a bid, it was going to be 20,000 in equipment and 20,000 in trenching and wiring, and that's more than our budget. We can't do it. So he kept putting it in his dead file. Well, he had dozens, maybe even hundreds of these bids in his dead file. And once he started using SureFile all the time, he's like, wait a minute. They said no to 40,000, but I can now do it for 22,000. So he was going back to these HOAs, these hospitals, and told them, hey, that because of new technology, we can now do that for 22,000. And he's been picking up about 60% of those dead files. Now, some of them have gone on and done other things, but 60% of those ones that have already said no, that's picking up a lot of work that you've already done because you've already done the bid on it, right? And so now that, he's becoming, I told you, he's done about 3 times as much work this year with the same number of guys. So it's a great example of a business model helping you guys make and save more money. So let me ask, Travis, will you raise your hand so I can see where you're at? Travis, thank you, sir. Of these things that we've been talking about on this page, for your company, what do you think is the most important or one of the important ones for you?
What? Saving money? Yeah, saving money and doing your job efficiently.
Could you repeat that for me, Paul? It was hard to hear.
Saving money and completing the job efficiently.
Excellent. Okay. Now Briones, Briones, I apologize if I said that name wrong. For you, what kind of stood out to you as an important reason to maybe use Surefire on jobs?
And besides no wiring and the troubleshooting app.
Yeah, she says that there's just, she likes it because there's no wiring and plus there's the app. She likes the app.
Yeah, I can't get over the fact how much time we are having integrators waste by digging holes and putting wire places. The ones that I've been out on, especially because, you know, I know how to do it, but it takes me 15 minutes to wire these up and I'm out of there. And it's so nice. And you can make money fast because if it's 15, 20 minutes on the job and you're out, man, that's making a lot of money for you and your company. Brianna, thank you. All right. Now,
You don't have to
you have a question?
I'm looking into doing like a POE or a net. I know that we use point to point, but sometimes it's kind of a challenge. You know, this seems to have a lot better range than some of our point to points we use. I just didn't know if that was in the works. As long as the cameras are becoming a lot more of what our HOAs are after. I mean, this works great for the access control. I just didn't know if that was something that you guys are looking at. Not really.
Okay, so if I understood, and it was breaking up, and I really apologize for the tech on this. If I understood, you were asking if this could be used for cameras in a network type setting?
That's something that may be in the works. I mean, I don't think this is going to be really camera.
So that was the question, John.
Okay, so let me kind of tell you why, and I'll tell you a little bit about that moving forward, because part of the technology, you know, technology is great, but we all have to obey physics, right? Part of the trade-off for having heavy penetration and great reliability with these radios is that they have been somewhat low bandwidth. You know, I say medium to low bandwidth. And so when we first started, we thought the only thing we'd be able to send is relays and Wiegand products, you know, a Wiegand packet. We actually have found that with testing, we are able with our serial data to compress and send voice now. So in the next few months, we'll be releasing a product that allows you to do call boxes and like telephone entry systems, but they wouldn't have to pay for, of course, a cell plan, because now you can send that signal with Wi-Fi or with Surefire, and you can, you know, push to talk, say, hey, let me in, talking back and forth, whatever. But with that said, that's about as far as we've been able to get our engineers and our programming and compression and physics people to get that radio to send. Past that into the video realm is not a reality right now, and is very low on the probability scale just because of the physics of the radio and the kind of signal it carries. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. So one of the things that I mentioned at the very beginning is I don't expect you to believe me. And the reality is I've known the guys who own this company for a long, long time, but I didn't believe when they told me what this radio could do, because I've been a radio guy for years, and I didn't believe them when they told me. And so, and I know a lot of times you go and get a wireless product and they'll say it'll do this, it'll do that, and sometimes you've been disappointed. That's why we have developed what's called the evaluation kit. And Paul's going to help you guys get set up so that you can get your own evaluation kit. And the idea is you take this, you put it in your truck, and you go out on a job. You walk the job and you show, you know, your customer, or you show the general, or whatever, or you just show yourself that it can get through all this stuff. And the ability to test that ahead of time and always have that with you in your truck when you go out and do a bid or walk a job is great, because then you'll know what the signal will do. And these are the exact same radios that are in the Wiegand bridge or the relay bridge or whatever. So in a few minutes, Paul will help you guys get signed up so that you can get that coming to you free of charge. And we do it free of charge because we know that the signal is good. We know it works. We do that with, you know, it costs us quite a bit of money to produce these, but we also know that once people have them, they're going to use Surefire a lot more. So let me tell you about a couple of products. Yeah.
Hey, go ahead. We got to wrap up here pretty quick. The situation, we've got to move a fork truck, and everything is in the way here.
Okay, this is the last slide then, so it'll be good. So a couple of you asked about a couple of things that it'll do. Let me tell you about some upcoming products in the next few months. On the top left, we have a Relay Pro, and that's going to be doing 8 relays, 2 heavy duty with our 8 amp relays, and the rest are single 1 amp relays, but 8 amps each, or 8 relays each direction. The Axis Pro is going to integrate not only Wiegand, but also OSDP, which is a new protocol that's coming out that includes more security and self-addressing, which some of you already know about. The serial data, which is the one on the bottom, we've already got in beta testing, and I've been out on some tests. This one's a really interesting one. This will allow you to connect RS-232 and 485 wirelessly. So, you know, some of your access control systems have like a 2-door controller that has to be connected with RS-485, but sometimes you have to run that thing 500 feet away. With the serial data one, you won't have to. So if you have an application that you feel like could use one of the, specifically the serial data, because that one's ready to go to do beta testing, contact me. We'd be happy to get one out to you and have you try that with us free of charge. That serial data is the one that we also were able to get voice through. So this is one that we're really excited about. So we'll have those coming out in the next few months, and they will all again have the same. They also have the same robust radio. It's just a different package sitting in the back of the pickup, the platform that we're using. So, what questions do you have?
Do they cause interference if they're in a close setting? No, it doesn't matter how many. It doesn't matter how many, because 900 megahertz range, and it goes frequency high. So if there happen to be some type of interference, which is unlikely, but if there was, it would just hop to another channel. Correct, John?
I couldn't quite understand what you said. Will you say it one more time?
About interference, so I explained to him about frequency hopping.
You explained to him about the channel hopping? Okay, yeah. We've actually been really lucky with that, and very little interference. In fact, zero interference. Schools are always worried about interfering with their Wi-Fi or whatever. It doesn't happen. What other questions do you have about how this might be applied to you? Is jobs that you've got coming up, or maybe jobs you struggled with in the past?
You guys make a fan or school? He asked if we need a housing, we could put multiple units in, but I told him that we should not.
Yeah, we don't provide a housing, but standard NEMA boxes, metal boxes are fine. We don't. These radios will get out of a metal box. Will get out of a Faraday cage. It's really quite remarkable because of the kind of signal that we send. So, other questions?
So
All right.
What I understand is
Good night, John.
the reader will be connected to this, or let's say the maglock will be connected to this, then we would put one at the end of the panel. So then is there any shortage, or like, how does it work with the power supply?
Yeah, power supply
Each one, right?
So at your end with your device, well, I think it's not. So this unit that we show here is at the controller, okay? And then this is at the door switch or button or whatever.
And does it come with its own, or it interacts with whatever?
Whatever you want to do. Just remember, with SureFi, basically, think of SureFi as a roll of wire and conduit.
Okay, so there's no like shortage, like, okay.
So one of the things to add to that question, I think, is whether or not it comes with its own power supply. It will operate between 9 and 15 volts, but a 12 volt is what we're looking for. And it doesn't come with its own, but a lot of times, especially the controller side, you can connect it to an auxiliary port that already has its own power supply. It needs 1 amp basically, and so connecting those into a 12 volt 1 amp location is great. On the other side, you're going to have power there for a card reader or a maglock or a door strike or whatever else anyway. So it's important to, you can do that. We are developing though right now, actually, a kit that allows you to pull off of some other power that's always at a door, some auxiliary power. So we can get that information out to you as soon as we have that developed. But no, they don't come with their own power supply, but they just need 12 volts. So sometimes, that means it's a step down transformer. Sometimes it means you can pull it off of equipment. Great question. Thank you.
Anything else, guys, before we sit down here? All right, I'm going to email you all later with John's contact information if you have any specific things. After we shut down with John, while we're eating lunch, I'm still going to go over a few more things with you, okay?
And thank you. Make sure you guys and ladies to please sign in so that you can get your free evaluation kit coming. It will get sent out to you. It's usually there within the week. So I appreciate it. If you have any questions, I'll stick around for a few minutes and come on up to the computer and ask me. I'm happy to help. Thank you so much, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.